Jimbo Fisher's an unbelievable coach. This team will be one of the most talented teams we've played against.
They're outstanding. They've got to be 1, 2, 3 in the country on defense, giving up 10 points a game, 260 yards a game, 75 yards rushing a game.
Nowhere to go. We got to sack him. Then the ball goes over on downs. Trayvon Walker got the sack.
As good a defense as we've played all year, without a doubt.
He uses some different plays to really highlight the two backs he has, and they're running the ball more and more efficiently.
Isaiah, right side, dances back to the left and into the end zone. Touchdown, Aggies.
They can run the football. Backs are outstanding. I mean, Swift, you talk about Swift, but 35 and all them other guys, they're really good players.
This kid has a tremendous arm talent. We know the athlete he is.
You talk about our guy right now. Talk about selfless, can play, tough, leadership. Guys love him, play for him, do everything in the world for him. Fromm's the same type of guy.
Play fake Fromm. He's going to go deep ball down the middle. There's Blaylock over the shoulder catch. Touchdown Blaylock right down the seam.
Guy's selfless, make all the throws, make all the runs. All he does is make the right decisions, take care of the football, and they win games and move the football.
All right, I hope you're excited. So here's the thing. A&M joined the SEC in 2012. In that time span, they have met every single team in both divisions, but the Georgia Bulldogs. That finally changes this week. In those 8 seasons, that is the longest stretch between any two SEC teams meeting. So why, you may ask yourself? Well, under the SEC's current format, each league member only has one game against a rotating opponent from the other division. So it takes 12 years to finally make it around that red robin there. After this, A&M and Georgia, they're not going to meet again until 2024. So because of that, it is a one-time opportunity. In the next several years, we're going to take advantage of this matchup, preview the SEC on CBS. Amanda Guerra, Brady Quinn. Nice to see you here today.
Good to see you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so let's start with Georgia. Favored by 13.5.
Yeah.
They've had a tough couple of weeks here. They met Florida, Auburn in the past 3 weeks. Kind of beat up in that last game. Are we going to see a healthy Georgia in this game?
I think we're going to see a healthy Georgia. It just comes down to whether or not they can ratchet back up that intensity. I mean, that's what it's all about. When you look at last week's game versus Auburn, it was a tough physical battle. I'm sure many of those players, just going through it myself, they're still sore at this point in time during the week. So it comes down to how are they going to be on game day, and can they get back up for a pretty solid Texas A&M team. Look, this team is better than their record. Texas A&M, probably next to Auburn, has played some of the most difficult schedule of anyone in college football. And so for that reason, I do think they're a formidable challenge. But the challenge really stands more for the A&M offense, going up against this very salty Georgia defense.
Yeah, salty is a nice word for it. That's a polite word, because I would say terrifying. So let's take a look at the two quarterbacks. We have Kellen Mond and Jake Fromm. Very different approaches for the two of them. On A&M, they've really turned into more of a rushing offense, where Jake Fromm has thrown multiple touchdowns in the past 3 games. He's never gone 4 games straight throwing multiple touchdowns. I think he can probably do it against this. Talk about the two different styles here with these quarterbacks.
Yeah, look, Kellen Mond's more of your dual threat quarterback. He's going to rush for about 40 yards per game. He's not necessarily as dynamic as some of the other players that we've seen who are considered a dual threat quarterback, but he's more balanced as far as how he goes about attacking defenses. And he's going to have to be versus this Georgia defense, the #1 defense in the SEC. On the flip side, Jake Fromm's just like Mr. Dependable, Mr. Clutch. You know, this is largely a rushing attack by Georgia, led by DeAndre Swift. And then what do? Run, and 3rd down. We're just going to put it on Jake Fromm to move the sticks and throw. No one's got more passing yards on 3rd down than Jake Fromm. And he typically makes the right decision, gets them in the right play, and always seems to come out on top. The kid's a winner. You got to love how competitive he is. And in those clutch situations, he always seems to deliver. So they both go about it in different ways. But I just think the challenge is more on Kellen Mond, and that defense is going to have to go up against.
Well, exactly. I mean, we've talked so much about that Georgia defense, just how dominant they are. So if you're Kellen Mond, if you're A&M, we've talked, I mean, it's a lot of rushing. What would be your strategy to try to tackle this defense?
Well, the toughest thing is you got to figure out ways in which you can create some advantages for yourself. And the one thing is, if you say to Kirby Smart, look, I'm going to take off 1st, 2nd, 3rd down, doesn't matter. If I see some daylight and I take off as a quarterback, you're going to have to start to account for me. And I think they already know that to some degree coming into it, but I think it's going to be more situational, 3rd down, red zone, typically situations where they're going to be a must-pass situation, or they're going to be an area of the field where they're going to incorporate more quarterback run game for Kellen Mond. So if I do that on early downs, then it signals to Kirby Smart, you got to start thinking about me on early downs. That's going to simplify what they can do defensively because they can't just play a bunch of man-to-man coverage, which is something that Georgia will rely on from time to time. They do mix up their coverages, but again, Kellen Mond's got his work cut out for him. If he does anything well in this game, it's got to be taking care of the football. That's going to be the first and really only thing he needs to be obsessed with in this game because you can't afford to give that Georgia offense more possessions and allow them to eat up time on the clock and Jake Fromm and his crew to, matriculate the ball down the field.
All right, so right now we're going to bring in Gary Danielson to be calling this game, the SEC on CBS. So, Gary, this is going to be a fun one, but one of my major concerns for A&M is how they match up against ranked teams versus unranked teams. A&M hasn't beat a ranked team on the road since 2014, and that doesn't bode well for them going into Athens.
No, it's a tough chore, and they've got an unbelievable schedule. I think the fourth time they've had the nation's hardest schedule in this century since 2002. I mean, they're facing it, and they know what they're up against in this Georgia team, a really strong athletic team. And A&M, listen, we did them earlier, and we're watching them now. They're a much improved team, and they played against some top talent. So I don't think anything that Georgia does will surprise them as far as competition. It's just that Georgia's getting better, too. You watch them play. Their young players are all over the field. And if Georgia ever figures out how to put a few more points on the board, they're going to be a legitimate contender for a national championship.
Well, yeah, let's talk a little bit about that Georgia offense. It's sputtered a little bit. Jake Fromm was critical of it after their win over Auburn. Only 251 points for the offense. They're the lowest all season. What specifically do you think the Georgia offense needs to focus on in this game?
Well, I just think doing things better. If you really watch their game, their receivers are just having a tough time creating space against man coverage. It happened against South Carolina. It happened this last week against Auburn. Those have some pretty good secondaries. I'll give you that. But these tall, young, inexperienced receivers are just not creating easy plays. They had one. Dominic Blaylock got one, an easy touchdown, and, Jake put it right there. But seems like there's a lot of tough fits, a lot of back shoulder throws. Nothing's easy for them. I think what I'd like to see is them to be able to use their running game to create a little more chunk plays in the play-action pass game. They just don't seem to be able to get as good as they run the ball. And with DeAndre Swift being such a weapon, you would think they'd be able to create more play-action pass, big plays, crossing routes. And I think that's the next stage for them because I don't think it's any secret. Kirby watches this game. Jake watches this game. Georgia fans watch their team play, and they realize to beat the top talent out there, the teams that they're going to have to play, LSU in the SEC championship, Ohio State or Clemson or, even in Oregon, they're going to have to score more points. That's all there is to it. They're not going to be able to, I don't think, as good as their defense is, the college game has changed, and they need to find a way to make more points on the board. Yeah,
and you specifically mentioned DeAndre Swift there. I mean, he's been great at rushing, but he's been basically non-existent when it comes to the passing game. Zero yards in the last 3 of the last 4 games.
And you don't know why. He's one of the most complete backs we have in college football. It just feels that it's still a little bit of offense by committee. The ball's being spread around to everybody, maybe shared a little too much with everybody. If you watch even Alabama, as Najee Harris has gotten the ball more and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, they've been able to produce more. If I was Georgia, and we all love Brian Arian, and he's made some great plays watching them, it doesn't seem like Swift is getting the plays in the passing game. I'm looking for the screen passes that he's done before, the short swing passes to the outside. I think when he gets the ball in space, he's too good of an athlete not to use more.
All right, so Gary, Georgia's clinched the SEC East. Now, granted, they win this game against A&M, then they have Georgia Tech. What do you want to see from them in those 2 games, though, to know that they're ready for most likely that matchup in the title game against LSU?
I think the beginning story of this Georgia team is still the continuing story. Number one is they've got to get Lawrence Cager healthy. He went out of the game again. For them to match, LSU in that SEC championship game, and that really, Georgia's only path to the playoffs is to win the SEC. They're not making it as a 2-loss team, so they've got to win out. And to do that, I think they need a healthy Cager. They've got to continue their offensive line to continue continue to be able to protect Jake Fromm. And then I think they have to believe that Fromm, he's shown it before. In big games, he produces. We saw it last year in the SEC championship game. He was tearing up the Alabama team. I thought they took their foot off the gas a little bit in the second half, especially when Tua went out. They thought they might, it's not like they don't try to score, but maybe they didn't take enough risks. And, Alabama catches up under Jalen Hurts. So I think if they continue to stay healthy at receiver with Cager and continue maybe with the emergence of Blaylock and Kyrus Jackson, their two younger receivers, get it a little bit more, maybe they'll have enough to stay with LSU.
All right, Gary Danielson, thank you so much for joining us here on the phone. He's going to be on the call for that game this Saturday. So let's bring in Barton Simmons to talk a little bit more about this game, 24/7 Sports Director of Scouting. So we've mentioned a lot of the big players in these games on both sides, but you have some players to know. Specifically, let's talk about Jalen Weidermeyer. Some people have called him the X factor in disguise for A&M.
Yeah, I mean, coming into this season, it was so important for Texas A&M to find a tight end, and we felt like they were going to have a tight end that was a true freshman that was going to come in and replace Jay Sternberger, who last year was so critical to A&M's success offensively, went on to the NFL. Baylor Cupp was the 5-star tight end coming in, and then he gets injured. And he gets injured and he misses the season. And so it's taken some time for Jalen Weidermeyer to step up and become that guy as the other true freshman that could really impact this offense. And as the season progresses, it's one catch, 2 catches, 3 catches. All of a sudden, there's a guy that's getting 4 or 5 catches a game, and he is becoming that X factor. He is becoming that guy the defense have to account for. And as A&M tries to really institute that run game and get more physical, like Jimbo Fisher likes to do, Jalen Weidermeyer and his ability to block in line at 6'5", 260 pounds, and also be a threat in the pass game, I think has opened up a lot for Texas A&M, and he's going to be critical if they're going to have success against this really talented Georgia defense.
All right, so let's stay with A&M for a second. You have Justin Matabuke. His draft stock is going up over the course of the season. He's a big man, big smiles, big impact. What do we need to know about him?
Well, hey, we know what Georgia wants to do. Georgia wants to get those big offensive linemen. They want to lean on you. They want to just run it down your throat all game long. And so if Texas A&M, who's got a good defense against the run, they're a top 40 defense against the run, middle of the pack in the SEC with a bunch of good run defenses that they're competing alongside of. But if they're going to have any success, you're going to need that square jaw Justin Matabuke to step up and really hold the point of attack and really anchor and be a guy that can not only be a disruptor, but be a space eater. Be a guy that can cause problems for those running backs who are looking for lanes and as they're trying to get in a flow offensively for Georgia. This is a guy, you talk about his NFL draft stock, it's on the up and up, absolutely. And this is one of those moments, one of those games where he can really have a signature moment, a signature showcase to prove that he is that guy in the NFL. And I think he's up to the task. It'll be a great challenge for Georgia's offensive line.
All right, so let's move on to the Dawgs. We have Dominic Blaylock, a true freshman there, established himself, though, really as a key playmaker for the Georgia Bulldogs this season.
Yeah, he's shown flashes, and I think if Georgia's going to win this game, and frankly, as Gary alluded to, if they're going to find offense over the long haul here and make a push to win the SEC and get into the playoffs and win a couple games there, they need more playmakers to step up on offense. And so Dominic Blaylock, he could be that guy. He certainly made a big play last week, but I'm not even going to limit it to him. Maybe it's George Pickens, the other true freshman wide receiver. Lawrence Cager has been the steadying force, but he's dealt with injuries. And so as Georgia continues to try to establish another reliable big play option on the perimeter, I think Dominic Blaylock has the business-like approach, the maturity physically and mentally, and the big play ability to perhaps be that guy. And I think he needs to. I think Georgia needs to find a couple of those if it's going to beat this Texas A&M team.
All right, and you see right there, number 5 wide receiver prospect in the class of 2019. Barton, thank you so much.
Got it.
All right.
Amanda, hold on. We're
yes,
forgetting
oh gosh,
something.
she's trying to jump over.
We're forgetting something. Isn't it your birthday today?
It is my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Happy birthday. I was very terrified. Oh, look at the confetti. I love it.
You thought we forgot. We didn't forget. We just couldn't do it in the first segment. All right?
Yeah.
Some production stuff.
Well, it's festive, and Tim Doyle's festive. We get to talk to him. I feel like, he put on this specific blazer for my birthday. It's, crushed. Is it red? Can it be crimson red? I went to OU. Does that work, Tim?
That works, yes. I mean, I guess you should be doing the picks, right? Because you feel lucky on your birthday. I usually like to be around people on their birthday. I know someone who, when they go out, claims it's their birthday, and it's a reason just to buy shots for everybody. And, hey, it's worked for him a long, long time.
I have no idea who you're referring to there, Tim.
Lots of question marks over here.
Yep, no idea.
Nope. Okay, let's get to this game, though. We're talking about A&M and Georgia. So, Tim, I feel like I've heard that you really like A&M in this game, at least when it comes to the points.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of points. And Kellen Mond is still going to be under center, and I think that's going to be the difference here. It's been a disappointing year for Mond at 18 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. If I had to grade his performance on the year, I would say it's a C. Now, that was my average at Northwestern. I do have a degree from there, but he has been disappointing. And a key number for me is last 4 games, he's only thrown the ball 30-plus times. They're actually better when he throws it less. When guys like Isaiah Spiller are touching the football, they're a better squad. So Georgia's overcome a lot. They've had some solid wins as of late, knocking off Florida and covering in that game. And then, most recently against Auburn, covered in that game as well. But these two schools, Brady, have one common opponent, at least one that I care about. South Carolina. South Carolina beat Georgia. Hello? A&M destroyed South Carolina. So this is just like test taking, right? It's like if you eliminate A and eliminate B, this means that A&M could actually win this game, and I'm going to get 13.5 points. Brady, what am I missing here?
You're not missing much, and I think the other reason why I'm on your side on this one is, this A&M team, they've played a difficult schedule, but let's look at them from a schematic standpoint, okay? When their offense is going up against Georgia's defense plays more man-to-man coverage than anyone in the SEC. And as I alluded to earlier, you can't do that versus a quarterback that can hurt you with his legs like Kellen Mond. So for that reason, Kirby Smart's going to have to change up some things. He's going to have to be careful about when he chooses to play man-to-man coverage. And everyone's got their back turned to Kellen Mond, and all of a sudden he's racing down the field, picking up first downs and potentially for big plays and points. So I'm with you on this one. It looks like a really big line, and especially considering Georgia's coming off that tough matchup versus Auburn last week.
And so, you're talking about Kellen Mond there. He's rushed for a touchdown in 4 of his past 5 games. Yep. So, I get what you guys are saying here. So let's talk about the over-under here. What are you feeling, Tim? Are we bringing out the hammer for anything?
No hammer in this game. I thought that was going to be an over last week. I just thought there was going to be enough time in that Auburn-Georgia game that someone was going to score late, and, hey, they had some opportunities there. I lean towards over in this game. Kellen Mond, this is really this is everything for A&M. Like Brady said, you lose to Alabama, you lose to Auburn, you lose to Clemson. Like, this becomes your Super Bowl. And if the playoffs started today, Georgia would be in. And that was the expectation. I just wonder, are they overvalued? Because of all the quality wins, because of all the publicity, because they're in the playoff right now. A&M has, let's just say, had an okay/disappointing year. So they're like flying below the radar. This game becomes bigger than their bowl game. This game, if they knock off Georgia, eliminates them from the playoff, and then all of a sudden your whole season has a completely different outlook. So I think A&M certainly has a chance to win in this game, but if they win, I can't envision it being like a knockdown, drag-it-out type of game. I do think that Jake Fromm has played exceptionally well in big games this year, so I see a high-scoring affair, maybe 35-31 A&M, but I would sprinkle a little. Like, I sprinkle a little on my mayonnaise in my hair to make it stand up. I would sprinkle a little on Texas A&M money line, Brady. I think you got a shot to win this game.
I don't see it. I don't see them winning this game. I do think they'll have a shot to keep it close. And unfortunately, I have to disagree with you again this week. I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair. Both of these teams, both these defenses, I think, could really outmatch the offense that they're facing. So I think it ends up being low-scoring. Georgia wins it. But they do end up failing to be able to cover the 13.5-point spread, at least at this point.
Oh, no.
Amanda, do we get a Do we get a pick from you? Do you get to get out your own
I'm kind of leaning with Brady on this one. I kind of got to go with him. I would not take the 45. Yeah, I feel like it's going to be a low-scoring game too.
Now it's getting a little weird.
I know.
It was funny for a second. Now it's kind of weird. It's her birthday. It's her birthday today. Put the hammer away.
We're just going to put it away. We're going to put Tim Doyle back away. Tim, thank you so much for joining us.
Ciao, people.
All right, so we got his takes, kind of disagreeing with them. Let's go back to Lawrence Cager there. You know, he left the Auburn game with a banged-up shoulder, so he was cleared for practice, but it's still questionable whether he's going to be in this game or not on Saturday.
And he's a big factor. We keep talking about this offense for Georgia having a hard time getting started, like one of those lawnmowers, those little push lawnmowers you're trying to pull and get going. You know, that wasn't necessarily the case at the beginning of last week's game versus Auburn, but then they had kind of a hard time finishing. And this is a game that, again, I do think they're going to have to score some points. I do think they're going to have to maybe battle it out with A&M a little bit, especially because A&M is tough enough schematically to put pressure on that Georgia defense and put up some points. And Cager's their leading receiver. He's the guy that Jake Fromm really relies on to make some big plays. Even though last week, I do think the one sign for optimism with this offense is when Cager went out, you know, Fromm ended up completing, 3 touchdown passes to 3 different receivers. And obviously, they ended up kind of stepping up their game around him. And I know this group is young. We've talked about that so far. So maybe this is one of those moments where they can continue to grow, and we kind of see that maturation process right there in front of our eyes.
So really quickly looking ahead to possibly what we believe is going to be Georgia and LSU. You know, there's so much here. I mean, if Georgia can win, first of all, do you think they're going to win? And then if they can win, are we just looking at 2 SEC teams in the playoffs?
No, I think if LSU was to lose, then you have the opportunity where LSU ends up sneaking in even though they didn't win their conference. But again, we've never seen a team lose in a conference championship game and make it in. So that's going to be crucial there. If Georgia loses, they got 2 losses, they're out. So that we don't have to worry about that problem in that case. But it should be a great matchup. But I think the biggest thing is whether or not Georgia's offense can come along and improve like they need to, and then LSU's defense can improve like they need to. But the biggest thing about this is, Georgia's, their offense and their team's kind of like that Jeep Wrangler, that stick shift, They don't have many gears.
So many analogies.
They've got to be able to put it in the right gear to get going and kind of have that smooth ride. Otherwise, it could be kind of a bumpy ride in this game as well as in that SEC championship game.
All right, so we'll give Georgia the Jeep. We will give LSU the push-pull
the
lawnmower or something. We'll see if we can get some motorized stuff in here. All right, thank you guys so much for joining. It'll be my birthday gift. Yes, Brady Quinn, Amanda Guerra. Keep it here on HQ. We have so much more coming.